Japan's worst earthquake and tsunami, the aftermath seems almost as cruel. So many have lost their loved ones, lost their homes, their towns, their cities. And tonight, thousands sit in shelters, going home a distant dream. But through the tragedy, we found reasons for hope. Good evening, I'm Lara Yamada. Thank you for joining us for this special KITV4 presentation. Photographer Rex von Arnswaldt and I traveled to Japan recently. We didn't always know what we'd find or how we'd get there, but we knew what we were looking for. That special bond between Japan and Hawaii, built by people who care. In the next hour, journey with us through the devastation to meet the people making Hawaii so proud, and others who inspired us and surprised us with their strength and integrity. It is Kokoro in every meaning of the word, as we follow our hearts across the Pacific. As soon as we left Narita Airport, we headed north for a 4-hour, 150-mile drive to our first destination, Fukushima City, the capital of Fukushima Prefecture, home to nearly 300,000, a popular tourist destination. But this is no vacation, not for us, and not for a group on a mission to open their hearts and homes.
I remember exactly, and all I was thinking was those poor people that, had no idea that this was happening to them. It could have been us.
A month later, that moment has inspired a project to help the people of Japan recover in their hearts and minds.
We were looking for some way that was a little bit more human touch, a little more personal.
It's a project filled with obstacles that has now carried this group of friends from Hawaii over the Pacific, down earthquake-cracked roads, and close to the radiation zone.
What is the reading right now?
It says 90.
When we were in Tokyo, it was 8.
So what's supposedly not good?
200 is not good.
That night, we reached 183 in Fukushima City.
This one is from my son. And you can see with the rainbow and happy face, and I love Japan.
The next morning, a different emotion, a different drive. Keith Regan, managing director for Maui County, has started a project along with some friends called the Aloha Initiative.
If you understand the Aloha spirit, it's here. It's caring, it's giving. It's very warm, and we want to share it.
Today, they're meeting with nonprofits from Japan, the very organizations that can help them connect to families in need. And Regan is proving he wants to do more than give money.
And that's why we wanted to open our hearts and our homes to the people being affected by this terrible disaster.
The Aloha Initiative has already found more than 140 Hawaii host families willing to take Japanese families into their homes for at least a while. A respite, a break, a chance to recharge after living through the worst earthquake and tsunami in their country's history.
I realized for the first time that the tie between Hawaii and Fukushima Prefecture is very deep. I thank you for thinking that deeply about our life here.
Before they left, a handshake and a donation to the governor of Fukushima, then to the mayor.
These are cranes. This one says, "You will find them and one day reunite."
And those gifts made by Hawaii Keiki, handed out to families in shelters now with nowhere else to go.
But it's just something simple, to help brighten up their day and spread a little aloha.
How would you describe how you're feeling about all of this? It's
very emotional for me. When you're able to help another human being, to be able to provide them some hope when they're at their lowest point. It's touching, you know, and feels good to be able to do something like this.
少なくして、
Each flower produces peach.
In the middle of a roadside field, we find Mr. Ando, a peach farmer who has no intention of leaving. It's mid-May and his trees are in full bloom.
So we are reducing the number of flowers here.
Branches are packed with healthy pink flowers, a sign a good crop is on the way. But in Fukushima City, his trees stand 50 miles from the Fukushima Daiichi power plant, not far enough to negate fears of contamination.
Are you worried about the radiation at all?
大変心配ですね。
It worries me very much.
More than 2 months after the country's triple disaster, the earthquake, tsunami, and nuclear plant explosion. Despite trees packed with delicate pink flowers, radiation fears will likely ruin his chances for a profitable crop.
More than anything else, I'm much worried about people not wanting to buy the fruit. The consumers may worry about their health, so that's the concern now.
As of early May, at least 25 countries have restricted farm and food products from Japan. Low-level radiation has been found most notably in Japan's milk, leafy greens, mushrooms, and fish. Singapore has also suspended fruit imports. The Philippines is saying no to even more of Japan's products, even cookies and chocolate. Not far from Ando's peach farm. Always with a smile, their worries only a flicker in their eyes. The Abe family and other farmers are not only relying on what they can sell, but what they have left to eat.
They have to survive. They plant rice and vegetables, so they're kind of self-sustaining.
Inside the Abe house,
Oh, good. Yeah, that's good. That's like watercress.
a mini feast. The star, steamed and pickled vegetables from the family farm.
I feel like this is my home, away from home.
Roy Tominaga, here from Hawaii to visit his family, says urban sprawl is already encroaching on these farms. But add radiation fears and scenes like this may disappear even sooner.
It's an unknown factor. So whenever people have an unknown factor, there's fear there.
There's a lot to worry about these days.
そうですね。やっぱ人体にも
The radiation may be affecting my body as well.
It's a risk Ando says he has to take, as he and so many others here wait and worry about something they can't even see.
It looks very healthy.
見えないですね。
The trees don't seem to have any effect.
I would imagine this crop is very important to you and your family.
そうですね。
生活のためにはね。Yes, very much so.
From budding peaches to cherry blossoms in full bloom, at a neighborhood still standing where signs of damage are easy to find, and people in long sleeves, hats, and masks walk their pets. Our translator Ken tells us, despite signs of normalcy, daily life has indeed changed.
I'm watching the wind direction every day.
Radiation levels are higher in Fukushima City than cities closer to the nuclear plant because of the way the mountains funnel the wind here. The woman we're on our way to see is thrilled her Hawaii connection helped her avoid it, at least for a while. Young, energetic, full of life. It's hard to imagine what a 3-year-old would worry about unless you live in Fukushima.
Hi. Hi, how are you? Oh, thank you. Thank you for coming.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
We meet Nobuko Kobuko, a teacher at Kohitsuji Kindergarten in Fukushima City. More than a month after the earthquake and tsunami in Japan, she's quick to mention something else, radiation, and listen to how she describes it.
We can feel something was so fuzzy with the faces and also skin, and everybody was knowing it's something that's strange, even it's in the inside of the building.
A week after the explosions at the Fukushima Daiichi power plant, she was so worried she gathered 15 people, children and adults, and decided to leave.
People in this Pearl City Baptist called it Fukushima 15.
Former Reverend Tatsuya Ban, a friend in Honolulu, got their desperate call for help.
I felt like this was part of our family, and especially those people, evacuees from Fukushima area.
With Ban and 3 churches donating close to $20,000, by late March, the Fukushima 15 made it to Honolulu and welcomed into Hawaii homes.
We had such a wonderful experience and they all were so kind and warm and so touchingful and meaningful and everywhere. They're like a friend.
It was their first trip to Hawaii, and despite the children's excitement, the reality of what they'd been through soon hit home.
We cannot go to the beach because a strong wave coming and we're gonna have any trouble.
It looks like they got over it.
Yes.
We are very honored to take them in and spending 11 days with them.
Like a family. So we all member and 15 member, we all changed. We really like in Hawaii now. We wanted to go back.
A lot of people are crying when they leaving.
We only one left.
How many did you bring back?
I think 10.
But they didn't return because they wanted to. The group was traveling with young children without their parents. When school started, as scheduled, they had no choice but to return.
Are you worried about the children?
Yes, a lot of them already wants to go out so bad.
Masked, covered up, cooped up. The playground outside, sprinkled with cherry blossoms, now stands untouched. Nobuko says she has no idea when they'll feel it's safe to play outside. Inside, 3-year-old Tsukasa and 5-year-old Roma remember well their Hawaii getaway.
Beach. He wants to go to Hawaii again, and because he wanted to go to pick up some shells and crumbs, and crabs were walking down and on the beach. So he enjoyed it. He said, "I enjoyed it."
Memories no tragedy can erase. From island friends who knew the help they needed comes from the heart. That afternoon, we rejoined the Aloha Initiative group at a nearby shelter. Hope and encouragement, a fraction of what survivors need. At the Azuma Sports Center in Fukushima, the supply shop is open, the garbage station is neatly separated.
Please take off your shoes.
And the cardboard walls have gone up.
Do you have any idea when you can go home?
わからないですね。No.
The 700 people that are still here are finally getting word as to how long they might be here, more than 8 months or possibly far longer than that. A hardship that's affecting every aspect of their lives.
いかがですか？大丈夫？ They're okay. However, the trouble is their school.
The disaster destroyed or damaged nearly 400,000 homes and buildings. Because of that, some 150,000 people are still living in shelters. This family stayed with other family for a while, but eventually had to move out. They say by the time they found this long-term, yet still temporary shelter to stay in, nearby schools were full.
She was an athlete, so she used to play volleyball.
And now she plays alone.
I would say there's a lot of PTSD, not diagnosed.
Dr. Nobu Harada, a physician from Hawaii, is working around Minami Sanriku. He's trying to help victims, the ones he can find, psychologically. He realizes now it'll be even harder than expected.
Even I'm a Japanese, I come here, I'm basically a foreigner from them. You gotta live here for a while and kind of assimilate to the culture here, and that was very difficult. Individually, they are very strong.
Harada says those sparse community connections, those packed public shelters, as tough as it may be the best thing for now. He says he worries more about when survivors move elsewhere.
Now they're living in like a gym or a hall, so other people's eye will catch them if they look really depressed or acting funny. But once they move into public housing, now they have more private space, but in some case that might be a risk.
For now, it's an army meal, a cement soccer field, arms turned into a bat, a makeshift life for a future on hold.
One thing that I'm gonna do for sure is to come back here at least once a year to visit and see how the recovery is going.
What's been the most difficult part of all of this for you?
She lost her families, relatives, and friends.
Recovering from tragedy. How a little aloha helped a girl named Emerin. Driving north, the traffic stretches for miles. It doesn't take long for it to transfer to our side of the road.
It's a perfect example of what we're dealing with now. Roads are getting back to normal, but the traffic is horrible. We're headed up north, and they're expecting this kind of problem to last for quite some time.
We're on our way to the city of Sendai, population 1 million. It sits 70 miles north of Fukushima City in Japan's Tohoku region. A modern, beautiful city, hit hard by the disaster, with more than 900 recorded aftershocks. We start just outside Sendai, toward roads lined with debris and rice fields buried in mud.
Wow, can't believe it.
Educator Jun Ogata is taking us on a tour. This is Tagajo, a city near Sendai, now a wasteland.
The police found 500 dead bodies along this road.
Once a familiar area, he's seeing it for the first time since the earthquake and tsunami.
Yeah, I've been here many times since I was kids. For fishing, and there's a fish market on weekend.
A lot of memories here?
Yeah, a lot of memories here.
We drive past stacked cars, roads bordered by boats miles inland. We reach homeowners sorting through scraps of their lives. But what we see next shows just how deep this disaster goes.
This side of the highway is okay.
On one side of the Tobu Highway, neat, trimmed rice fields. On the other side,
this highway stopped the tsunami.
Those same rice fields littered and left like this. And the debris isn't the worst of it. Not long after we pull over for a closer look.
You see the cracks on the ground? That's the dirt that came from the ocean. This was not here before.
We meet Mamoru Yamaguchi, a rice farmer, and his dog Ran. Our interpreter Ken joins us. Here in Miyagi Prefecture, the rice crops are considered some of the best in the country. And it's where some of the worst damage was done.
About 3/4 of his field is damaged.
Miyagi Prefecture here is known for its premium rice production, but as you can see here, the salt water completely flooded these fields and many others, a problem that could hinder production for years to come.
They say that the next 4 or 5 years will be impossible for him or for his neighbors to grow rice because of the salt water.
Japan has been cultivating rice for more than 2,000 years. Today it produces a moderate 10 million tons annually. But the U.S. is not far behind, with California and Arkansas producing the most.
The 12th generation of farmers here.
Still, it is cemented in Japan's history and culture. 85% of the 2.5 million farms in Japan plant rice every year.
This is the most important vital industry for Japan because this involves food.
Centuries ago, feudal lords were ranked by how much rice they controlled and possessed. Samurai warriors were paid in rice, not money. Today, the widespread harvest festivals are rich and colorful.
It takes a long time to get salt out of the field.
It is a painful contradiction. Those rice fields now dead or dying.
This is terrible, isn't it?
But then, something heartwarming. His land destroyed, his future uncertain.
If you have time, come visit my house.
He invites us to his home for a cup of tea. Despite what surrounds us, it is the mark of integrity. And as we leave him, a reminder of what strong spirits can overcome. The next morning, we reach a school in Sendai to meet a girl with a heartbreaking story, softened with a little aloha.
What do you remember about what happened?
I'm very scary.
Well, it's like a shaking. Everything was shaking.
Emirin Honda, a junior at Sendai Ikue Gakuen, was at school when the earthquake hit. One of their campuses nearly destroyed, now a crumbling shell. In this room, her classmates barely escaped when the ceiling collapsed.
We were all very concerned.
Less than a year ago, Sendai Ailai and Hawaii School opened a new branch in Honolulu, an ocean apart. A learning center to help students in Sendai grow into global citizens. Dean Earl Okawa says the last class returned to Sendai 3 days before the earthquake hit.
What do you want to tell them?
That we're thinking of them, that we care for them.
What's been the most difficult part of all of this for you?
She lost her families, relatives, and then friends.
For Emirin, it was terror followed by tragedy. When she returned home to her grandmother's house,
It's like everything is like, like a laundries.
Everything
Just mixed up together, kind of thing. 30 to 40 minutes.
They started to see the water rise.
Yeah.
How long did it take for it to get that high?
10 minutes. This was taken from here, right? Well, there's so many people who was like floating, they couldn't save.
and in Emirin's room.
All her belongings is gone.
Outside, her cousin, who lost her father. And a neighbor, helping how he can. The song is called My Country Home. Back at Sendai Ikue Gakuen, they are practicing to sing at nearby shelters. It's something, a start, on their first day back at school.
As you can see, it's pretty dark in here, and it's actually quite cold too. They're doing their best to conserve energy. They just got the power on about a week ago and water a few days ago, but they say sometimes it's coming out brown or not at all. Still, the students here are grateful. They have something to take their minds off what happened.
And in a large brown box brought straight from Hawaii. Cranes, 1001 for good luck.
Have a dream.
Have a dream.
It's a project started by Central Pacific Bank, finished by the people of Hawaii, filled with messages of aloha.
It's his dog? A message from his dog?
Yeah. Aloha. Don't be defeated.
Don't be defeated.
And the cards on the table from Oahu's Rainbow School children, wise beyond their years.
Please keep your dream and please build a wonderful Japan again. Please keep your endeavors. Thank you.
And from Emirin, ever so slight, a smile. A sign that wave of aloha from Hawaii just might be working. Memories, I carry these wherever I may roam, they sing. I hear it calling me, my country home. An anthem, a light, as they find their way back from darkness. It is Kokoro, Hearts Across the Pacific, from messages of aloha to the heart of Hawaiian culture. Later in the hour, how hula and an island paradise turned up in a most unlikely place. It's been more than 2 months since the triple disaster struck Japan. A 9.0 earthquake, a massive tsunami, and then a nuclear plant explosion. Today, large sections of the country are ruined, and more than 100,000 are living in shelters and will likely be there for a long time.
Photographer Rex von Arnswaldt and I traveled to Japan recently, not only to see the devastation, but to find people from Hawaii on personal missions to help survivors recover. We met a group from Maui starting a homestay program to give people from Japan a place to stay in Hawaii, a respite, a break from the disaster. Then messages of aloha sent through thousands of cranes, notes, and artwork from the people of Hawaii. In the next half hour, meet a surfer turned humanitarian who traveled into the heart of the devastation to hand-deliver donations. We'll also introduce you to a Hawaii doctor doing what he can to help Japan's victims heal in both their hearts and minds. And we'll show you how a hula halau is drawing from Hawaii's culture to overcome tragedy. They are the people of Hawaii who are inspired by aloha, and the survivors who inspired us.
As we enter the city of Ishinomaki, the smell of rotting fish is overwhelming. Crews tell us it's a good thing the ground is damp. They say when the dry dirt kicks up, it is even worse. So from Sendai to Ishinomaki, a city of 165,000. It was once a rice shipping port, also known for its huge fish market. But amongst the countless rows of debris now, we find a man from Hawaii on a personal journey to help the victims in Japan.
It's a long way till this place is going to be back to normal. Nice to meet you.
Kirby Fukunaga, a surfer and photographer from Hawaii, had turned his pain into passion.
Just wanted to do something and help.
After years of competing in Hawaii and Japan, he started a website, gonaminori.com. When the disaster struck Japan, he used his website for a fundraiser called We Are One, collecting tens of thousands of dollars in donations and t-shirt sales before he realized he had to go.
These are my lovely volunteers. Hello. Nicola.
We first met Kirby and his friends in Ishinomaki, a town trashed by the waves. Cars stacked stories high, roads narrowed by walls of debris. But somewhere else in the devastation it read, "Give us food," a plea Kirby is here to answer.
Yeah, there's 400 fish in here, 500 fish. He owns a fish factory down in Wakayama. これなんだっけこれ? Sanma. This is sanma. There's a lot of tea and water, and behind there's like oranges and onions, potatoes, and this is for our fisherman friend right here. And instead of donating to an organization, we just come up and just give it straight to the people. That was the whole concept behind it.
How did you decide where you were going to go?
I didn't.
We leave Kirby for now, but we'll see him again as we head even farther north to Minami Sanriku. It was once a charming resort town of about 20,000, but the tsunami dealt it a devastating blow. This is where we meet a doctor from Hawaii, trying to help those who are living with that reality.
Hello!
Fine.
Okay, good to see you.
You're alive.
How you doing? You're alive.
Yeah.
This is Dr. Nobu Harada, a University of Hawaii and Kukua-Kalihi Valley Center doctor. Now a doctor in a place like no other.
It's just overwhelming in all the categories. You go downhill and your view opens up and it's like nothing. The scary part is you get used to it. Now I don't even pay attention to the smashed car flipping upside down. It's like, oh yeah, I see this every single day.
No hospitals, no signs, no homes, except for the ones high on hills. Even nearby towns, the ones he thought could help.
How did Ishinomaki look like?
It was bad.
We usually send out really sick patient to Ishinomaki, but they said, no way. So basically we kind of got isolated.
This is Minami Sanriku. Right now we're standing on the grounds of what used to be a middle school. Rescue teams in the area say they're expecting at least 40% of the population to leave for good.
I'm not sure what we can do because I think the whole community is going to disappear.
And this is Minami Sanriku as the tsunami wave rolled in. The water swallowing the entire valley, a wave by some estimates reaching more than 52 feet high. People who escaped to higher ground had no choice but to wait and watch in horror. A town of some 20,000. It's estimated half have died.
That is the hospital that got crushed.
Harada, a primary care doctor, is here for a different role. He's part of a small team of specialists based out of Kumamoto, visiting shelters, evacuation camps, and focusing on helping the survivors psychologically.
I would imagine sometimes you just don't know what to say.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. There's a lot of time there's a silence because we are here for psychiatric care, but that's just a tiny one aspect of what they need.
How are they doing? 大丈夫ですか?
いかがですか? 大丈夫? They're okay. However, the trouble is their school.
A lot of people lost their family, lost their job, lost their home, everything basically. It's just so overwhelming.
He says everyone here is suffering from PTSD. But the hardest part, when they leave for public housing or other cities. No shelter staff to keep an eye on them, no knowledgeable neighbor for insight, and all their medical records gone.
So it was very difficult to share the information, and that is actually still a big problem. It's not solved at all.
Harada says the Kumamoto teams first planned to be here for 6 weeks. Now they're planning for 6 months. He's on his way home, but expects to be back sometime soon for a job they all know is just beginning.
Overwhelming. It's so overwhelming. I'm so busy. I gotta do what I can do. Maybe when I go back to Hawaii and I have time to and look back, and I might go through a tough time. But I'm here to help, and a lot of people appreciate that. So that's keeping me up.
How are they surviving then?
I don't know. Like nobody's bringing stuff here. It's weird. We're like the first volunteers to ever come here.
To the end of the road. What we find and why it might surprise you. We left Minami Sanriku and headed south this time, about an hour away to Onagawa. It's a port town of about 11,000, right at the intersection of 2 major ocean currents. There, the tsunami not only took 1,000 lives, it ruined ports, boats, and key industries, vital not only to its survival, but the survival of Japan as well. By 5 a.m., fish markets across Japan are bustling with business. Tokyo's Tsukiji Market, the largest in the world, is the size of 43 football fields. But Japan consumes so much seafood, it's still the largest fish importer in the world. But the March 11th earthquake and tsunami crippled every aspect of the industry. In the country's northeast region alone, more than 200 ports ruined. Some 17,000 boats damaged or destroyed.
What about the fishermen? They've got to be worried, very worried.
Yes, they're very much worried.
We ran into Mr. Kimura in what we believe is the town of Onagawa. It's hard to tell here where one town ends and another begins. And along this entire stretch of coastline, every port is cracked and buckled. Some have no choice but to try anyway. Inland, there is another problem.
The earthquake shook so hard, a stretch of coastline about 200 miles long literally dropped about 4 feet down, and that's creating some huge problems in areas like this. You see, it rained last night, and that alone caused this area to flood yet again.
And then there's the tide.
When the tide is very high, it comes back.
So that means it might happen for a long time.
It must come. Yes.
Sandbagging slows foundations from ebbing away, but just by a little. Scientists say because of the tide's daily flooding, it won't stop anytime soon. What happened in harbors such as Ka'ehi and Kona mirrored here tenfold, with docks and piers destroyed, to fears of radiation in the fish. Then there are the crops that we normally don't see, the oysters and the seaweed, all vital crops in these waters. To find some of those fishermen hit particularly hard, we drove more than an hour out to the Oshika Peninsula, where asphalt turned to gravel and gravel to dirt, to a village called Kobuchihama. You may not have heard of it, but you might have tried their famous oysters. To fill us in, we caught up with surfer Kirby Fukunaga, hard at work helping fishermen and their families.
Watch where you step, there's so many nails and he told us to come down the hill where we are here, and there's a few people living in the house, no electricity, no water for the past 5 weeks.
Are they surviving then?
I don't know, like nobody's bringing stuff here. It's weird. We're like the first volunteers to ever come here.
It's hard to imagine what it once was. Independent, successful.
Like top grade oysters from this prefecture. From here, this port right here.
The best fishing and even better oysters.
They drop it in the water with a buoy, and the oysters start growing on this. So it'll be like another 5 years until they could raise oysters here.
Their livelihoods piled on docks, sunk at sea, destroyed.
And a lot of fishermen that are oyster farmers that born and raised into this culture, like don't know what to do. I don't even think he knows what he's gonna do.
Back to those fish markets where Kobuchihama oysters and countless other seafood sells, business has dropped an average of 50%. In recent weeks, a ban on Japanese seafood in restaurants has spread rapidly. Several kinds of seafood, most notably clams, and a small fish called the sand lance, or sand eel, have repeatedly tested positive for high levels of radiation around waters near the Fukushima Daiichi power plant. The sand lance is a popular meal for larger fish, and some fear that means more radiation in the food chain. Far from any restaurant, the cleanup is underway. Though turn away from the towering garbage pile and it's hard to tell.
I don't have any idea when they can start again.
Remember Mr. Kimura? His town is flooding daily. He fears for the future of fishermen around here, but he says just getting around is his main concern. Still, he says he won't leave. After all, this is home. Before we leave Miyagi Prefecture, we catch Kirby on his way out too. And despite the destruction and all the work it will take to recover, we see something unexpected. Smiles, laughter. They're traumatized, tired, and still hard at work, and it's amazing to see.
The one holding the fly swatter, the pink fly swatter. I asked him why he has that. He said, when people don't move, he hits them. So move, move.
This fisherman was lucky. He was rescued after losing his boat and being swept out to sea.
It's crazy. Mr. Fly Swatter guy, that's nuts.
But still, here he is, helping one small step at a time. It's a feeling, despite devastation for as far as you can see, no one here is about to give up.
People here are very strong. They don't want sympathy, They don't want me coming here anymore and saying "ganbatte," which means do your best, because they're already doing that. Thank you very much. Thank you. See you again.
Thank you very much. So before they leave, they gather names, addresses, and make a promise to come back. And as they drive off, sad to leave their new friends.
This is all they have,
We know that promise will be fulfilled.
I know there's a lot more work, and there's a lot more work that has to be done here, and I'll just keep on coming back. You guys gotta be strong, so we're here for.
Hula, Hawaii, and a coal mining town? The unusual story inspired by the warmth of the islands. It's our last day in Japan, and it's a foggy one. We can only imagine what's beyond the freeway. We are headed 3 hours south to Iwaki, still 190 miles north of Tokyo, and just past the edge of the evacuation zone. The city is famous with Japanese tourists, thanks to a hula academy and what some would call a crazy idea. The setting, Japan, 1965. The rise of petroleum would soon force the Joban coal mine to shut down.
2000年の人員削減を
The company that owned it decided to pitch a radical idea. Turn this cold northeastern town into a Hawaiian paradise.
それが常磐ハワイアンセンターだっぺさ。
It's a true story, now a movie called Hula Girl.
Often in the darkness.
It's based on a group of girls trying to become hula dancers to help save their town. And the seemingly washed-up dancer Hirayama Sensei, hired to train them.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Nearly 50 years later, the real hula teacher, Hayakawa Sensei, is still at it. And she's here, in case you couldn't tell, on a very big day.
How have you been? Are you fine? Everything okay?
These hula dancers who were preparing to perform at the Hawaiian Center, now called Spa Resort Hawaiians, are seeing each other for the first time since the earthquake and tsunami hit Japan. Some have lost their homes. A few have lost family. In what's now called Iwaki, just down the road, violent reminders of how hard this area was hit. The road that leads to a lookout site wrenched, twisted, and torn. The mountain ripped open like a cracked lip on a dry day. And this was from an aftershock. Decades ago, Kale Nani Hayakawa, there on the right, left her job as a Tokyo hula dancer to train that first group of dancers from Joban's Hawaiian Center. By the time the center opened in 1967, the hula girls, already on tour, had become a sensation. The earthquake damaged Spa Resort Hawaiians, but they're about to reopen. And Hayakawa Sensei is sharing her teachings and her wisdom.
You, as hula girls, are the strength, and for all of Japan.
Thanks to a tip from our interpreter, we were the only foreign press there. When we told Hayakawa Sensei Hawaii was in the house,
すみません先生、ハワイからです。ハワイの人たちにメッセージありますでしょうか。はい。KITV, ABC.
This is the message from all of you together. Let's give our aloha to them. All right, ready? And they want to say aloha to all of you there in Hawaii. We send our love of aloha to you.
Despite their optimism, beyond these walls, the devastation surrounds them. But it is through hula, they say, through Hawaii's culture and spirit, they will endure.
it strange to be in a city where everything seems normal, but you have so much to worry about and think about?
Yes, it is. It is very strange. And many thoughts we never had in the past are in our minds now.
The aftermath, the future. Thoughts from those living through tragedy and trying to help.
It's hard to even guess how long it will take for Japan and its people to recover. The people we've met, their accomplishments, their determination to not be defeated are just the beginning. But we were honored to be a part of it, to witness what it will take to overcome such immense tragedy. And that is why we believe in Kokoro and the power of hearts that have no boundaries. Thank you for joining us. Your thoughts about the future?
I cannot picturize the future in my mind. It's all dark, nothing but darkness.
Do you have any idea when you can go home?
No. I hope this brings hope for them too.
They're like my family to me, so I just wanted to do something.
They're like a friend.
I'm here to help.
We are destined to take care of these people.
Please keep your dream and please build a wonderful Japan again. Please keep your endeavors.
So we're here to support you, and we're going to be here for a long time.
The people of Hawaii truly care about their friends, thousands of miles away.